ADHD is one of the most prevalent terms that is thrown around today. And I think it's an interesting topic to dive into. And in this episode, I'm going to bring it back towards knowing yourself and some other important things that I'm passionate about. But I want to start off on ADHD. So I was doing some research for this episode, and 6.1 million kids have been diagnosed with it. But I think there's a problem with that diagnosis, the fundamental idea of a diagnosis. Because when you think about it, especially in children, their mental belief of themselves is so fundamentally important. I can't even stress how important it is. There's a reason placebo drugs work, especially in kids. Your kid has a stomach ache, you give him, a vitamin C, but you tell him that it is a stomach ache cure and he's going to feel better. And so my issue is that when we tell children that there is something wrong with them when it comes to ADHD, when we tell them there is something wrong with them, what is going to stop them from internalizing that and dwelling on it? And it's just going to hinder their growth, hinder their mindset. It is, and I've seen this because I've met kids my age, a little younger than me, a little older than me, who have been diagnosed with ADHD. And some of them are going to use that as leverage. They're going to be like, okay, here's the problem I'm facing, and now I understand it and I'm going to solve it. But the other people, the majority, are going to use it as an excuse. And that's a fundamental issue. And I'm not blaming the kid. I'm not blaming the young person who this has been thrown at. I'm not blaming the kid my age. I'm blaming the system because it feels almost fundamentally wrong to be telling a kid there's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with you, is what we're telling them. We're telling them that this thing is what is causing issues in your life. And that's a hindering belief. One of the most important things you'll learn when you dive into entrepreneurship, successful people, all of these things, is that your mindset is the most important thing to your growth, to your success. So why would we tell them there's something wrong with them? Why would we do that? Especially in an education system that is frankly pretty terrible. Why would we tell them this in an education system where they're told to sit all day at a desk, learn about topics they don't care about, around peers who hate it too? And then when they don't do well, when they are fidgety, when they are disruptive, tell them there's something fundamentally wrong with them? I think there's something fundamentally right there. If the way you're learning is terrible, the worst thing you can do is blame the person being taught the wrong way. And I think it's a topic that's hard to explore because for generations, parents have been told, just send your kid here, we'll take care of him. Just do this, we'll take care of it. What? Right? It's a fundamental conditioning. And I don't want to dive into the powers that be or whatever it is. But I think it's an interesting thing to think about. Why are the parents being taken out and being told? Obviously, teachers have a specific skill set. There's always going to be a specific skill set. Teachers are valuable. Not everyone can be a teacher. But at the same time, it's still a parent's job to educate their child. That is so important. That's why I think some sort of hybrid homeschooling even is a great idea. That's why I love the idea of what Acton, but more so than that, what Matt Boudreau is doing with the Apogee Strong campuses that are working towards launch, because they're educating the parent as well. Because the parent is arguably more important to the kid's education than the kid. The environment they're in. And so I just think it's an interesting topic because I don't like that we're telling people there's something wrong with them, because that is not right. In what world, is it right? And I feel like I keep repeating myself here, but that's because I find this important. And another element of this ADHD thing is, according to other studies, again, I hate studies, okay? I hate these stats. I hate these studies, but it's a way to make what I'm saying more valid from an objective point of view. 29% of entrepreneurs are estimated to have ADHD. So what you're telling me is that how we diagnose ADHD is people that don't fit into the system. And you're telling me that a large majority of people who decided not to be employees don't fit into the system? Like Sherlock, thank you. Right? It should be obvious. It should be... I don't see a world where that doesn't just make sense. Right? It makes perfect sense. But I don't know. I think ADHD, the problem with ADHD lies nothing. It has nothing to do with the diagnosis itself. It has nothing to do with because the diagnosis of ADHD essentially means you operate differently, right? And there's no problem with telling someone they operate differently. The problem is when you tell them that operating differently is wrong. That functioning differently, acting differently is wrong. And it encourages this herd mentality, which at the end of the day, no matter what, is going to hurt a society. Like, you can't tell me that there is some major positive to telling everyone to do the same thing. Because the way we innovate, the way we get better is to do different things, try different things. The way you find yourself as a person, the way you learn about you, the way you understand the problems you're facing and how to overcome them is by trying different things, doing different things. So, I don't know. I know that there's people saying, the powers that be, but I don't want to focus on that right now. I might do an episode on that in the future, but that would be one that would require a lot of research, and I would want to do that adequately. But as I look at these notes here, I'm like, it's a problem, and this all brings me back. Like, this entire thing was just an excuse for me to talk about knowing yourself. Because it's something that I've learned, and it's been so valuable to me. It was this idea that I needed to know myself and needed to know who I was and how my mind works. Like, I don't need an ADHD diagnosis to tell me how my mind works. I've learned how my mind works. I understand what's going on within my head. And so that's what I wanted to really focus this episode on. So this first 8 minutes has been a roundabout way to get here. I think it's the most important part of success. I truly think it is. Because if you can't understand who you are, then none of these lessons you're going to learn from listening to Jocko or any of these guys are going to matter. If you can't understand who you are, why you are that way, what created this person that you are, then hearing how Jocko approaches these problems isn't going to matter if you don't fundamentally understand how you work so you can apply this to your life. It does not matter until you know yourself. Every piece of advice you're going to get is from the mind of someone else. There are going to be people similar to you. There are going to be people doing similar things, but nobody is you. No diagnosis, no cookie cutter label can tell you who you are. And so I think my real issue with ADHD is it tries to tell someone who they are, but it tries to tell them what's wrong, that who they are is wrong, is what's wrong with them. And it's very interesting because I know what challenges I face. I know that I need to wake up early. I know that when I'm doing a mundane task, I have to throw in some headphones, listen to some Akira the Dawn to get things done. I understand that. But and along with that, I understand that none of that is bad. The fact that I need to throw in my AirPods and listen to some music to get things done, that's not bad. The bad thing would be if I chose not to get things done. That is the true problem. It's not an issue if you don't like getting things done. It's not an issue if you have trouble getting things done. The issue is not. The issue is not having discipline. And it's one of those things that gets thrown around by Goggins, Jocko, anyone, right? But that's because it's important. It's cliche in that community because it is important, because they have a fundamental understanding of what it takes to succeed, and they are prepared to stop at nothing to achieve success. And I understand it because every time I take a step forward in my life, every time I've overcome a challenge, it's come with a bit more discipline, but it's also come with a more deep understanding of who I am, right? And I think this last year has been super transformative for that because I've gone through a lot of change, and a lot of it's been external change, which is the hardest change to adapt to. Change which you have control over is much, much easier. But change that you don't, man, that's difficult. That is difficult, and I don't think that gets talked about enough. The only thing you can control is you. The only person who you can control is you. But what do you do when you can't control the surroundings to such a level that you almost start to become reactive to your situation? Reactionary. It's a very interesting thing, and everybody has to navigate it for themselves. But fundamentally, what it comes down to for me is acceptance. Accepting that you don't have control. Releasing the idea that you have control. Stop believing that you need control to succeed. There's a level of control that is going to make things easier. There's a level of control that is going to be a luxury. But in reality, all that matters is that you have the discipline to do what you need to do. And there is never a place where you can't get these things done. You're never going to be stuck in a place where you completely can't. So you can't do X thing in the way you're used to. You can find another way. You can't get to the gym to work out. Okay, you can do some push-ups. You can't, you injure your leg, so you can't, do something you normally do. Okay, you just find another way to do it. But in order to do that, you have to stop grasping for the control, because when you grasp for the control and it's not there, it's the easiest way to lose hope and lose everything that makes you you. I really hope that this episode's been coherent. And I've enjoyed doing this episode. These notes are a little insane. But to recap on all of the things we've gone over in this episode, the problem with ADHD is not necessarily the diagnosis. It's not the understanding that you're different. It's the fact that you're being told that who you are is a problem. That is the most limiting belief anyone can have. It is the worst thing you can do, is to believe that who you are is fundamentally terrible, fundamentally a problem. Now you're going to have problems within you, right? And you sometimes might be doing the wrong thing. But the way you operate, as long as you are making sure you're doing the right thing and you are aware of who you are and why you are, then the way that you get to the right thing, the way you mentally process, the way you mentally get to the point where you get things done, the external tools you need, that is never wrong. And stop telling children that it is. All right. I just want to say thank you guys for listening to this episode. Hoping to get this one out tonight, but I don't know, internet speed. Really don't want to fail this challenge. But yeah, so thank you guys at home for watching, listening, streaming. Be sure to follow the podcast. I've been talking to you guys in a bit of an incoherent episode, and this has been The Conversation Station.